Thank you to my Patreon and Tier 2 YouTube members. Find out how you can support in the description. Alright, I'm gonna keep it a stack with y'all. The majority of the loot this season kinda blows ass. Now granted, we haven't gotten our hands on the Crota's in gear just yet, which by the way, chances are, if you're watching this video after the raid has released, I probably have already made a guide on the Crota raid loot, which if that is the case, I'll have a link to said video in the description and as a pinned comment. Now, even though a lot of the loot this season isn't really desirable, there are some notable picks that you should have on your radar for PvE specifically, and those said picks are what we're going to talk about today. I'll talk about how to get them, what their best perks are, and just exactly how much of a priority they should be for you to actually pick them up. So with that said, subscribe for more Destiny content, follow my Twitch if you're a bad bitch, and let's jump into this. Kicking off the video, I'm going to hit you guys with two weapons at the same time because they're so similar. We have the Nox Perennial 5 as well as the Eremite. Now the important thing you need to know about these fusion rifles is that their main appeal for you is going to be as a last ditch effort to deal boss damage, or as a means to deal damage in your rotations while your rocket is auto-loading, for example. Both these fusions are basically the best in their respective slot. The Eremite is going to be the best fusion for boss damage when it comes to the energy slot, with a role like Envious Assassin and Controlled Burst, while Nox Perennial is the same thing for the kinetic slot, as it is a strand weapon and it even comes with the exact same role. Now the Eremite is very easy to get your hands on. It'll drop from the seasonal content here in Season of the Witch and it's craftable, with the Nox Perennial on the other hand being a bit more of a rare drop, with it being in the world loot pool and unable to be focus farmed. Now, don't let that get you too down, however, I do think that the Eremite is the better of the two, with Apex Predator being one of the best damage options in the game, and the Eremite sharing the exact same element as that weapon, meaning you'll be able to take advantage of the Solar Surge damage buff in your loadout, which you should be running anyways. The Nox Perennial doesn't quite have a weapon that it can share such a synergy with just yet. There might be one, but it's still the best boss damaging fusion for the kinetic slot and should be on your radar alongside the Eremite. The SHOWRUNNER. Now this very much could be one of the best kinetic slot SMGs we've seen here in Destiny, and it honestly isn't that hard to get your hands on, and even comes with two different god rolls to chase, giving it some nice variety. This weapon is one of the old Red War gear pieces, and you'll be able to focus it via the Red War engrams in the new area of the helm. Now, I believe this weapon is competing with 3 other weapons in said Red War engram that you'll be focusing, but as we all know, towards the end of seasons especially, or early on if you play a lot, you will absolutely stock up to damn near max capacity on seasonal engrams, making this one a weapon that won't be too hard to focus. Now, when you are focusing this weapon, there are 2 main roles that you should probably be gunning for, and that is Overflow Target Lock and Overflow Kinetic Tremors. Now, Kinetic Tremors surprisingly works pretty well in this SMG, as the SHOWRUNNER is able to proc this perk faster than any other gun in the game thanks to its RPM at just 0.8 seconds. And Kinetic Tremors also does the second most damage on this SMG out of all the other options, with 300 RPM sidearms only dealing roughly 100 more damage. Now, this information comes from a YouTuber named Duck who made a video concerning the SMG specifically, and I'll have a link to his video in the description. Now, if you're not a huge Kinetic Tremors person, as mentioned earlier, you can always go the route of Target Lock, and this will make the weapon fairly similar to the submission from 𝗷𝗚𝗕𝗏, and if you're someone that doesn't really like that weapon or doesn't raid or own the DLC, this weapon is going to make a damn fine kinetic option for you to have as an SMG. Unending Tempest. Keeping with the SMG theme, I want to talk about this SMG next because it's probably the most promising 600 RPM I've seen thus far in the game. While this weapon comes from the Crucible, which I know many of us aren't a huge fan of, and while it's a main playlist weapon, meaning that the perk pool is, well, absolutely massive, it comes with a perk combo I have yet to see on a stasis weapon, which is Demolitionist and Headstone. Or maybe that has rolled on weapons before, but probably not a primary. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like I've seen this that much. Now, we also have a few other picks, including Subsistence in that first column, with the second column featuring Adrenaline, Collective Action, Frenzy, and Target Lock, but Demo and Headstone definitely stands out the most to me, and this may be a weapon I absolutely go for in the near future. Bungie even made this weapon focusable right at the beginning of the season, whereas normally they usually wait a season before adding it to the focusing tab, so if this is a weapon that interests you, you can go ahead and get a head start on trying to farm it. Do keep in mind though, you might want to save up your engrams because the more you prestige your rank with the Crucible, the more perk slots you'll be able to get when randomly rolling this weapon, which will make things a lot easier when it comes to acquiring the role you want. Warden's Law. Shout out to Ninja for this short little clip of gameplay here, his links will be in the description. This is the new frame that was given to Warden's Law, which is called Heavy Burst, that essentially has turned this weapon into a legendary Crimson. Now, if you're someone that knows their way around the Lucky Pants exotic, you may already see some potential here, but wait until you see the god roll of 4th times the charm and Vorpal weapon. You could even go Frenzy here if you don't plan on using this weapon only on champion style enemies too. With the 2-burst nature of this weapon, 4th times is going to give you ammo back on only 2 trigger pulls and essentially guarantee that you'll be able to fire this weapon for as long as possible, giving it really high sustained damage. Couple this with the newly integrated hand cannon buff and you got yourself an absolute unit of a weapon, regardless of if you're using Lucky Pants or not. This weapon will be made available very soon in the Nightfall playlist as a reward, with GMs granting an adept variant, which will of course be able to equip Big One Spec as your mod for bonus damage on both majors and boss enemies. Definitely keep an eye out for this one. Warden's Law very much could be one of the best hand cannons we've gotten in a long while, especially for that kinetic slot. Locus. Real quick one here because it's not exactly something to write home about too much, but Locus is a really good option for those that don't have the Thoughtless Sniper Rifle from Season of the Risen. Snipers aren't exactly in the best spot, but this could be a very solid pick for the day that they eventually come back into the meta in a big way. Overflow firing line is the role that you want here. It can be gotten through the Season of the Witch seasonal content fairly easily, and there's kind of no reason to pick this weapon up, especially if you don't have Thoughtless. Dead Messenger. Definitely a strange weapon to be featured on this video, as it released quite a long while ago, but in Season of the Witch, Dead Messenger has become craftable and you're able to get the Demolitionist perk on it via running the 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 mission in the Exotic Mission Rotator playlist. Dead Messenger was already a damn fine pick for anyone wanting to fill their exotic slot and have ad clear on lock, but the addition of Demo on this weapon just makes it so much better and will definitely cement it as part of my loadout any chance I get to have it on. It can absolutely wipe out tons of ads at a time with it being able to shoot 3 waves in one shot, and adding grenade energy on top of that is simply amazing, so make sure to get your hands on this while you can. CATAPHRACT GL3. Lastly for the video, I wanted to feature what is the best heavy grenade launcher in the game, the CATAPHRACT GL3. Now, doing a bit of a throwback, this would be a fairly good weapon to pair with the Nox Perennial we talked about earlier, but Izanagi would probably be better. And even though CATAPHRACT is the best heavy GL in the game, it's not exactly meta in the same way that rockets are. It'll have its use cases in the game where really quick DPS is needed and or favored, but you're unlikely to ever absolutely need this weapon for an encounter in order to complete it. Now that said, you really shouldn't ever pass up a weapon which is the best in slot for its weapon category, so I do recommend playing some Trials of Osiris to try your chance at getting it. And this season we also got new Trials armor too, so if you're someone that's really big into fashion and transmog and stuff, you'll be able to get your armor pieces while also going for this GL. And what makes this GL special is the fact that it rolls with bait and switch, which I don't believe we've ever seen on a heavy GL before, and this can be paired with auto loading to allow for weapon swaps and your damage rotations. It can also get envious and even field prep, which can be paired with explosive light, but bait and switch is definitely the thing that sets this weapon apart from what I've seen in the past. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for today's video. We went over all of the notable picks in Season of the Witch, excluding Crota's End, and I hope you all enjoyed. If there was a weapon that you think should have been here but wasn't featured, definitely feel free to leave it in the comments below, as there's always a possibility that I missed one. An absolute huge shout out to those of you guys that commented gopher on the last video. I know it seems kind of silly, but it's such a massive way to support my content without the need of like donations or anything similar, as the YouTube algorithm simply loves to devour engagement on a video. So again, thank you so much. The word of the day today is going to be Hellmouth, as very soon that's exactly where I'll be for the day 1 raid, and pretty much every day after that as I help Sherpa you guys that may need it over on Twitch. So thank you guys so much for watching the content today. I truly appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.